Testing, 1, 2, 3. Thank you. I'll take a hug.
Coming. It is good to see you this morning. I'm Reverend Beth. It's good to be together. It's good to be with you today. On this day where love calls us to be together as we experience what's happening across our country and specifically in Minneapolis with Alex Preddy after Renee Nicole Good and all the names we're not saying. I talked to a couple of people. I mean, sometimes you just wake up and you say, I need to go to church. I need to be with community, and that is why we're here. So I just want to welcome you to this service. I'm excited to be back from Minneapolis. For those of you who know I went, thank you. Thank you. There are many, many faith leaders there, and there will be a time for us to really talk about it and for you to hear more and for us to think together about what is ours to do, because there are things that we can do together. I just want to say I'm so grateful for Swamini Sarasvati, who is our ministerial intern, who will be preaching for us today, and Julia Beckman, who is the worship associate. And I just want to say, it's good to be together, but I'm going to invite you to take a breath with me for a moment. I heard some sighs. Do you want to breathe and then sigh? Oh. Do you want to do that again? It is good to be together.
Good morning. Yes, thank you for responding. Welcome to this place of peace, justice, and hope. In this Unitarian Universalist congregation, we affirm that no matter who you are, whom you love, or where you are on your journey, you are welcome here. For those of you joining us online, we are so glad you're with us today. If you're visiting with us today, we invite you to sign our visitor's book, which is back in the living room. And if you'd like to join us for coffee hour downstairs, you're very welcome. If you would like, feel free to take a green mug so that we can be sure to greet you. Also, members and friends, to help folks connect, remember to wear your name tags with your pronoun stickers. If you need a new name tag, see whoever is at the back desk. Oh, it's Darren. See Darren at the desk in the living room. I'm Julia Beckman. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm pleased to be with you today on this very momentous day as your worship associate. We recognize that individuals of all ages and abilities have different needs during the service. In the living room at the back of the sanctuary, we provide a cart of fidgets and drawing supplies. If at any point you feel the need for movement, please feel free to get up and grab a fidget or engage in drawing or whatever. May you each know you are welcome in this house of peace, and may our worship and fellowship this morning touch your heart, mind, and spirit. Our music today will be provided by the irreplaceable, that's it, Jamie Passman. I like waiting for the adjective. I like to think of a new one every time I'm here. And our services will be led by our wonderful intern minister, Swamini Saraswati, and our fantastic minister, Reverend Beth Johnson. So there's always a lot going on around here, around the church, and especially today, we have a number of announcements. You can read all about it in News and Notes, which arrives in your inbox every Friday, and there are printed copies available downstairs. If you'd like to receive News and Notes, stop by the welcome table again, back in the living room, and then leave your email address, and then you will get those announcements every Friday. As I said, there are a number of announcements today. We'll need the slide. UCH invites you on Thursday, February 5th at 6:30 p.m. at UCH to a screening and discussion of Vigilantes, Inc., America's new vote suppression hitmen. Mr. Greg Pallas' award-winning documentary about vote suppression, narrated by Rosario Dawson and introduced by Martin Sheen. The film is followed by live Q&A with Mr. Pallas and Richard Chu, longtime WCPT 820 AM Chicago radio host. Details and a registration link are in the News and Notes. That should be very special. The next announcement's special, and on Friday, February 6th, the very next day, you're in for another treat, the Jamie Passman Trio. Join us for a special UCH fundraising concert on the 6th at 7:30 p.m. This enchanting evening of music will span genres including pop, rock, jazz, and even 1940s African-American spirituals. Tickets for this fundraiser are only $30, and tickets purchased at the fall auction will be honored. I know I've got mine. Please see or contact Pam Fodor for more information. Jamie, did we say it all? Okay, cool. And it's not too late to help define UCH's purpose. UCH's purpose. If you haven't attended already, The UCH Strategic Direction Team invites you to sign up for one of the 2 remaining mission conversation sessions to help us understand what you, UCH's members and friends, think about the purpose of UCH. Our next session is today, right after the services, from noon to 1:30. Is that going to be here, right in the Joshi, in the auditorium across in the RE building, from noon to 1:30. Our last session will be held next Saturday here at church from 10 to 11:30 a.m. And of course, snacks will be provided. If you have any questions, please reach out to either David Mrazek or Susan Mooney. Will you raise your hand? Susan, David, they're both right here today. And now Dave Lloyd has an announcement.
The Social Justice Circle is inviting everyone who has volunteered on any committee or project under the social justice umbrella, and that's a lot of people, to a short meeting next Sunday, February 1st, in the Joshi Auditorium across the way at noon. This is not to go through everything that everybody's doing, because we'd be here all day and people have to get to work the next morning. No, the purpose of this meeting is not just for everyone to see how busy the church is, but also to start a conversation about congregational transformation. The idea of working together in all our different groups, not just by ourselves in little silos, but in the whole social justice group to improve the ways we organize and collaborate. I promise it's a short meeting. So that's next Sunday, the 1st, across the way at noon. And Anita, you have an announcement.
So after Jamie's concert on February 6th, the next day, February 7th, the play reading is being revitalized, and it'll be short. It'll start at 3 p.m. on Saturday, and please come. It's free, and the plays are 2 one-act plays and some poems said by some new members. So we want to have as many people there as we can. And it'll be fun. The plays are interesting. One is very, very lovely, especially for those of us who are up in age, and the other is a comedy. So please come, February 6th. 7th. I'm sorry, I got Jamie on my mind.
So that is going to be a big weekend. And won't it be wonderful to be together Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Thank you for all of the announcements and all the things that are going on in the church. I wanted to let you know, if you don't know already, at 1 o'clock this afternoon, there is a march in Chicago starting at on Ida B. Wells. That's at 1 o'clock, so you're going to be at church, so it might be hard to get to. But I invite you to join me and Chicagoland faith leaders for solidarity, faith solidarity vigil at the Federal Plaza at 3 o'clock today. And so I invite you to join us in solidarity with our beloveds in Minneapolis.
Our chalice lighting reading for today is by Sarah Eileen Lawal. Out of the flames of fear, we rise with courage of our deepest convictions to stand for justice, inclusion, and peace. Out of the flames of scrutiny, we rise to proclaim our faith with hope to heal a fractured and hurting world. Out of the flames of doubt, we rise to embrace the mystery, wonder, and awe of all there is and all that is yet to be. Out of the flames of hate, we rise with the force of love, love that celebrates our shared humanity. Out of the flames, we rise. I will get this lit. Try it again. Pray with me, please. The opening hymn is 1024, When the Spirit Says Do. Please rise if you are able. Sing it out, sing it out. The Spirit says do.
Good morning. I'm Pam Fodor, Director of Programs. My pronouns are she and her, and I too am happy to be here today with you. In lieu of a story, because I couldn't find one that quite seemed right, I'm going to offer you a peace greeting. I offer you peace. I offer you love. I offer you friendship. I see your beauty. I hear your needs. I feel your feelings. My wisdom flows from a higher source. I salute that source in you. Let us work together for unity and love. Now I invite you to do it with me. I offer you peace. I offer you love. I offer you friendship. I see your beauty. I hear your needs. I feel your feelings. My wisdom flows from a higher source. I salute that source in you. Let us work together for unity and love. Blessed be.
Will you join in singing our children out to class? Joy surround you as you go. Go in peace. Know our love is with you always as you go. As you go.
Many of us came to this church and Unitarian Universalism generally, in part because we seek community in which to grow and learn and live our values, because we find affirmation in service, because we recognize that what we do matters. What we say makes an impact. How we move and work in the world resonates throughout the fragile, resilient web of life. Our financial contributions to this congregation help write the stories that we want to tell to each other and to the world. We are so grateful for this and commit together to ensure the funds we gather collectively do a greater good for ourselves and our world. And for those interested in donating in solidarity with Reverend Beth's advocacy in Minneapolis and in other places she so bravely goes, as we know, you can do so on our website or by writing a check for this collection. Along with your payment, be sure to add the notation on the memo line, ministerial professional expenses. That's a lot. Ministerial professional expenses. Now let there be an offering to sustain and grow the life and mission of this congregation. May we thereby write the story of love, gratitude, and hope. Please join in our offertory words. This church is made up of all of us. It is what we learn together, the work we do together, the fun we have together. It is what we share with one another, with people around us, and with all the world. We now gratefully receive your contribution. Thank you in advance for your generosity.
This is a time in our service where we share our joys and sorrows with one another, marker events that we feel in our hearts and in our bodies, that we know in sharing with community, we are made whole and we are made stronger. And in sharing our joys are multiplied. Because in these times, beloved, we hold joys and sorrows, and we hold them together. I want to thank again Swamini for taking the service when I was called to Minneapolis on short notice. I asked Swamini if she would preach, and she was not scheduled and said yes. So thank you for that. I want us to, again, acknowledge the losses that we are feeling and the fear and the uncertainty in these times. Knowing that in community we hold this together, we hold up the name of Alex Preddy, an ICU nurse who walked over to help a woman who'd been pushed by ICE, and then we all saw executed before our eyes. So, beloved, in these times, believe what you see, not what they tell you. There aren't enough pebbles to drop for all that we're seeing and all that we're hearing. For all who are suffering in Minneapolis and around the country by the illegal and authoritarian actions of this regime. We know that together we're more than we would ever be alone. So I'm going to invite you to take a breath, having heard that and knowing that we come to this place with this on our hearts. Breathe. We also come today with the sadness that one of our longtime members, Lorna Neunecker, had passed away peacefully after an illness or after dealing with dementia. She and her husband, Don, were long-term members, contributed to many aspects of our congregational life. And so we don't know any details about the memorial service or what is going to happen. But I think you might want to take another breath for Lorna. Thank you. Now, beloved, if you have a joy or a sorrow that you would like to share, I invite you to come up, and you can drop a pebble in silence, or you can share with us briefly.
The pebble is for our good friend Pat, who had surgery again this week. Let's hope this one will get her to recover completely and fully, because she deserves it. She's a real fighter. We all know that.
From our YouTube stream service today, thoughts of Lorna and her family, and HM Fan 2010, aka John Cooperrider, a long-term participant here who moved home. He asked that we think of him and his friend who had to put his 14-year-old dog at the threshold of the Rainbow Bridge 2 days ago.
Good morning. I drop a pebble for the faint hope that at the very least we can have a government that can be honest with us about what's going on.
I second that.
My heart is heavy too, and I get great solace from the walking monks' piece. And they have been a distraction for me this week. So if you haven't seen them, look them up. It'll warm your heart. I have a joy, and I don't know if you saw her on Channel 11, but a friend of mine was recognized for her work with special ed kids, and we worked together in Naperville. I taught her grandson, and Jane, you might know her because she belonged to the hiking group that Sherry Zora started, and it's Joanne East. She's 100 years young.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Back in the day, the OWL program was called About Your Sexuality, AYS. Lorna was my teacher. It was almost 50 years ago. So a pebble for her and a pebble for all that's happening.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to apologize in advance for the political and militaristic tone of this message, but I just want to say that we're in a war. We've been in a war since COVID. when our opposition basically decided to use our people as collateral for their political gains. But the good news is we are winning the war, and I've been telling people this for a while. We have them in checkmate. And so you need to encourage your representatives to act as if we're winning and that we have the advantage. We're winning this war. We have them in checkmate. The only way that they win is to get worse. And I don't think that the American people will allow that. So thanks.
Good morning, my name is James. I have both a joy and a sorrow this morning. The joy is that I take great solace in the fact that we as people have the gift of speech and action to protest what I feel is the destruction of this democratic republic. So that's a joyful thought for me. The sorrow, the deep sorrow that I have is that it won't be enough. And I hope desperately that I'm wrong. Thank you.
I'm going to invite you to take another breath with me. We have heard more sorrows than joys, and that's okay, because this is a time of heaviness, of fear and uncertainty, and we hold all of that together. We hold that together in the complexity of our lives. We gather in community in order to do what we can to create more beauty, more love, more peace, more justice, and to see that come. For me, hope means I don't know the future. I walk with what I call an eyes wide open hope. Knowing the reality of what is around me, not turning away, understanding that bodies count, the bodies that are taken, the bodies that are killed, and the bodies that we put on the line or use to support in any way that we can. As this regime does all it can to divide us and to frighten us. Everything that you're feeling, beloved, is fine. There's no need to change how you feel. Simply be with it. And then when you need to, move through it. And allow yourself not to let it go, but to simply acknowledge it and then look for the beauty. I saw a woman interviewed in Minneapolis after Alex was murdered, and she brought up Mr. Rogers. She's a preschool teacher. And she said, if he were alive, he would be here, and I look for the helpers. And we're all called to be helpers in whatever way. And if the way that you help right now is simply by being and breathing and holding space and energy for the possibility that we might allow ourselves to create the world that we want to see, not the one that we came from. Because, beloveds, our black and brown siblings have known what this regime is about since before this started. Our black and brown siblings have been abducted and kidnapped and murdered on the streets. It's important that we all rise up now and that we do what we can, and that when we do it, grounded in our Unitarian Universalist values, which places a radical love at the center. And know that I love you. Pray with me. Spirit of life, Spirit of love, Holy One moving in, through, and among us, righteous Spirit of justice, of hope, of compassion, and purpose, and passion. We pause in this moment, knowing that all who have spoken are holding so much, and all who are sitting in the seats and watching on YouTube, we're all holding this, our personal losses, and our collective hope and concern. As we move through this space and through this time, know this. You are all, always and everywhere held in love and mystery deeper than you can know. I love you. This is a time that calls for the solemnity of this moment, but it also calls us to sing, to know that at the core of our faith is a fire of commitment. And is that commitment that woke you up and brought you here on a snowy day when you could have wanted to stay at home, but you came. And we come for our collective voices to be risen and to give voice to that which we hope for. I'm going to invite you to rise, embody your spirit, and sing with me, Fire of Commitment.
You know, here, I'll cut to this one. Just a little while ago, before anyone got here, as we just got off the slidey road in the snow, we looked at each other and we said, no one's going to show up. We're just going to be looking at each other. And my God, what it says about you that you came today. We are so happy to see you because we need to hold each other up right now. We need each other. So some years ago, I'm going to go into a story now. Some years ago, I served as a manager of a human rights campaign, and we drove across 5 African nations. While on that campaign, I met and worked with some of the most amazing people to grace this planet. people from across Africa mostly, I also witnessed the profound suffering of the people. I saw it in the faces of the oppressed, in bombed out buildings, and as I stood alongside mass graves and held the hands of loved ones who lost everything. I saw it in nations such as Uganda. You see, there was a time in Uganda, in East Africa, when a dangerous dictator arose. He came into power, as so many wannabe dictators do, because he charmed just the right people. He gathered just the right people. He made just the right people believe that he held all the answers. And with their help, he overthrew the government. And suddenly he was very, very powerful. And so he used that power. Within no time, he began kicking out immigrants and the native-born children of immigrants. Within no time, he turned on his own citizens, the minorities, the very poor, and anyone who chanced to stand against him. Within no time, he misused government funds to make himself and his cronies very, very wealthy. So I will come back to this story a little bit later to tell you what happened. But now I ask you, does any of this sound familiar? Sadly, yes. Does anyone think God wanted this? I'm not talking about the displaced, far-off God that Reverend Beth so wonderfully says is way up there in the sky wearing a white beard and using his, he pronouns as he judges us without mercy. I'm talking about the God that I believe resides within all of us. The spirit of life that animates all beings, that holds us, that forever connects us in the interdependent web of life. And I can't help but raise the name God today because God is the word most of us know here in the West. It's the most common word we use, but feel free to substitute it with any word you'd like in your mind. Spirit of life, Mother Divine, Ambe, divinity, goodness, the best of humanity, whatever you like. So my friends, over the span of history, horrific forces have risen time and time again, only to hurt or even destroy the good people, places, and things that make our society just, peaceful, and safe. And once again, I'm going to say it, horrific forces are rising, threatening to destroy the very values that we stand for: justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. No matter what they say, I believe the horrific forces that led to the tragic shooting of an ICU nurse in Minnesota yesterday are apt to destroy what truly does make America great: the kindness between neighbors, the amazing scientific advances that save lives and leave us in awe, the way we come together as a free society of people, of all genders, of all races and places, to celebrate, to mourn, to protest, learn, and to embrace each other. This they hope to destroy, sometimes hiding behind what I call the false prophet name of white Christian nationalism. And I'm telling you, this is far from holy. There's a Baptist seminary in Minnesota. There's a Baptist seminary in Minnesota. Like many seminaries, they teach the fundamentals, as I learned in seminary, you know, scripture, worship, liturgy, that kind of thing, theology. It's called, I'm going to name it, Bethlehem College and Seminary. And you know what else they're teaching? You know what else they're teaching? Here's what one of its professors, who is also a Minneapolis-based church pastor, said about a week ago. This is what he said after ICE brutally murdered an innocent mother in her car, after ICE used weapon-grade tear gas on a car full of children, leaving an infant baby unable to breathe. And I'm going to say it and foaming at the mouth. This is what the seminary professor and Minneapolis church pastor, this so-called man of God, wrote. He wrote, "Yesterday I prayed for ICE." He said, "Here's what I prayed. Thank you, ICE officers. Thank you for the ICE officers who are bravely and honorably doing their job here in the Twin Cities of Minnesota. Please protect the ICE officers from wicked government officials like our state's governor, Tim Walz, and the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, who are inciting violent lawbreaking. Please protect ICE officers from wicked men and women who are violent lawbreakers." So next, this is what kills me. So next, I need to take a drink. It's just water, don't worry, everybody. It's just water. So next in his prayer, this is a prayer, the pastor, and you can find it online, by the way, says, we pray with the psalmist in Psalm 58. This is his prayer. Break the teeth of the wicked in their mouths, O God. Lord, tear out their fangs of those lions. Let them vanish like water that flows away. May they be like a slug that melts away as it moves along, like a stillborn child that never sees the sun. This pastor said in his prayer. My gosh, this kind of thing can make people want to run away from religion, doesn't it? But here's the thing. Here's the thing I want us all to remember. This guy was cherry picking, and I find it horrific, and I have to speak against this. And so I say Bible thumpers like this so-called pastor are corrupting the words of Scripture, using them against the cause of peace. Just like when slaveholders would hold up the Bible and say, here, it says here we can capture innocent people. Here, it says we can trade them like farm animals. Here, it says we can whip them until they bleed, tear their families apart, and deny them their inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to turn this around on false prophets like that pastor. I'm going to turn this all around using Scripture. Here we have this Bible, my mother's Bible. And what that pastor missed is for whom the curse he invoked was meant. What the pastor missed is for whom that horrible curse was meant. Because what the Psalm says is very different. It has a very different context before the horrible words the pastor said against our innocent siblings in Minneapolis. Here's what Psalm 58 actually says before that curse. Is it true that you are mute instead of speaking justice, instead of judging men with fairness? Even with your heart, you wreak injustice upon the land. You justify the violence of your hands. So the pastor who prays that innocent adults, children, and babies be proverbially crushed beneath the hard boots of ICE I would say, cherry-picked here. He cherry-picked around the very fact that this psalm cries out against people who justify their violence against the innocent, who wreak injustice and unfairly judge others, like for the color of their skin or the way they speak. So this is something very few people ever see. This is a Jewish Tehillim. These are the Psalms according to Judaism before Christianity, with commentary going back to ancient times. And let me read you some rabbinical commentary on the same psalm from 1,000 years ago, from the Midrash Tehillim. It says, the psalm means, this is what was written, the heart was created to speak truth, the rabbi said. Yet you have not conducted yourself accordingly, or even with your heart. You wreak injustice upon this land. The hands were created to perform acts of charity and kindness, yet you justify the violence of your hands. So I'm going to help the pastor's followers and students out a bit, my friends. So I say, they are being misled. Here's what Jesus says in the Bible. Jesus says, beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will know them. You will recognize them by their fruit. Matthew 7:15, by their fruit you will recognize them. Beware of false prophets. So let me turn this around even more in honor of the great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose birthday was celebrated just a week ago. I'm going to turn to Amos, the biblical story that he often turned to make meaning of troubled times. You see, Amos in the Bible was a regular man, living a regular life in not-so-regular times, just like this. Perhaps today he'd be working in an office somewhere. Perhaps today he'd be a farmer with a big green tractor. You get the point. Amos was a regular man taking care of his regular family, doing regular things some 2,700 years ago. Unlike Amos, off in the big cities, so-called prophets and holy men went to fancy schools to become prophets and holy men. In the big cities, the rich were very rich, the poor were very poor, and his nation back then, some 2,700 years ago, was very, very prosperous, but only for the prosperous. That time, so-called prophets and holy men went to fancy schools, foretold great and powerful futures for the great and powerful. In other words, they spoke in cunning, sweet platitudes for the rich and evil powers that be, which made the so-called prophets very rich themselves. And so the so-called prophets and holy men looked the other way. They looked the other way when the poor were driven into the ground by the rich powers that be. Even when violence was inflicted upon everyday people and people were killed, these so-called prophets looked the other way. Perhaps they even used words of scripture to explain it all away. Sound familiar? And so back then, the so-called prophets and holy men looked the other way in unjust times, for they were beholden to their masters. They were beholden to their masters, money, power, name, and fame. From their mighty pulpits, they looked every which way but to divinity as they preached their nonsense. Their cunning words were carefully crafted to soothe any upset conscience that a rich and powerful person might have. And so injustice grew worse, poverty grew worse, people were tormented by their government, their spirits were breaking as the rich and powerful threw themselves great Gatsby-like parties, put on their fancy finery, and danced their dance steps over the backs of the oppressed. You see, cycles over the course of history repeat themselves. And so the oppressed cried out. And so Amos far, far away, felt the holy call to travel to the big city to confront the hypocrites who subjugated, killed, and caused pain. He went even though he knew what he would say would win him no popularity contests. For God's true prophet was Amos, the everyday man who lived every day in reverence for righteousness. God's true prophet was Amos, a regular guy from a regular place who spoke of ethics over evil, a shepherd who cared for his flock, his family, his friends, and all of creation with love. His pure heart, his love for the oppressed, it is said, was what drew God to him. And so now imagine Amos standing in a crowded marketplace as money is exchanged, standing before so-called holy people, false prophets, business people, rich and tainted politicians. Imagine Amos seeing amongst those silk and clad elite the people they enslaved because they couldn't pay their debts, the people they kept hungry like little children, reaching up for a crust of bread, but getting nothing because they were not pulling themselves up by their bootstraps when they had no boots to wear. Imagine Amos raising his voice, for he did raise his voice. Imagine the words that he used that took to the wind and made everyone's hair stand on end. Amos went to the big city like our beloved Reverend Beth and so many others just went to Minneapolis. And Amos shouted to all who could hear, "Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream." Amos 5:24. Imagine the startled faces. Imagine the charge in the air. Amos shouting the words of divinity, not pacifying words. These were the words that could make the world tremble. For Amos didn't mince his words behind pretty platitudes. He saw the inequity. He saw the cruelty. He saw the pain of the downtrodden. He heard the cries of the hungry and the oppressed. And so Amos shouted the words, I would say the words of God, the words of righteousness. Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Let justice roll down like waters. In biblical Hebrew, justice is called mishpat. Mishpat is not necessarily what you find in a courtroom, while it can be. This is divinity's corrective hand. It is divinity's corrective will carried out through everyday people like you, like me, like Reverend Beth, like Amos. Mishpat represents the actions that spring from ethics, the actions that come from an unwillingness to any longer bear the cries of the oppressed, the actions that can roll down like waters when good people collectively stand for what's right, when good people bravely join forces to uphold the good that I believe divinity wants, when good people stand up to oppression. Mishpat rolls down like waters. It can become an unstoppable force, the same kind of force that restores hope into the hearts of the oppressed. Doesn't mean violence. It means correction. Back to the laws that our greater natures would set forth. Said Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., justice is only justice if it squares with the moral law. That is why the great man said, I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. This is why right, temporarily defeated, is stronger than evil triumphant. Why did he say that? This is because I would say justice and righteousness are divine. And so Justice Friday is our Reverend Beth, a fellow UUs, and so many others, thousands of others, marched that brave march, braving the unspeakable cold of Minneapolis's subarctic winter, braving the even more frigid cold hearts of people who wear masks, tote big guns, and carry enormous hatred. People whose souls have become like ice. Just this Friday, when the wind chill in Minneapolis went down to -40, they marched. And this, my friends, must be celebrated. Like the prophet Amos, the people came from outside. They raised their prophetic voices. They raised their voices. They put their health at stake in the unspeakable cold, and they were heard. Perhaps you could even hear the echoes of Amos calling through the winds of time, shouting with them, "Let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream." Look through the annals of history. Look at all the atrocities done in the name of God, in the name of wealth, in the name of power, name, and fame. Look at all the atrocious leaders who normalize the atrocious. Look at the false prophets, cronies, and corrupted companies that supported them in historic times. Where are they now? Where are they now? Is there a single atrocious empire or a single atrocious leader who remains, who has stood the test of time? So remember the story I told you earlier about the dictator in Uganda? He became even more atrocious. He bought himself a fleet of planes, was surrounded by pretty girls, lots of gold, jewels, pretty shiny things. Such wealth, such shine, might even feel like some kind of protection. But nothing escapes the eyes of divine justice. And no one could protect him from losing his power. No one could protect him from being kicked out of his country. No one could protect him from finally leaving this world for the next. Today, this once atrocious dictator of Uganda is alive only in history books, where he is hated and despised. His name is like a curse word, for this world has no want. This world has no want for wickedness. As monks walk their peace march, some of them barefoot, from all the way to Washington, D.C., righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. As you do the good that you do to make this world a more kind and just, equitable society, righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. This is why right, temporarily defeated, is stronger than evil triumphant, said Reverend Dr. King. I believe, said he. I believe, said one other brave soul. I believe, said more, and then more and more, until divine will was heard through an ever-flowing stream of humanity. An ever-flowing stream that can, through its collective strength, correct the wrongs of this world. This, I believe, is divinity's call to us, resounding across time and space. Can you hear it? Can you hear it? Yes. Can you hear it? There was once a humble working man named Amos who lived in the time of greed, cruelty, and injustice. There was once a humble man who was not afraid to raise his voice for the sake of righteousness. His words were written down. His words were remembered. So perhaps it's our time now to listen, to be called by our inner call, to be the fountainhead of righteousness, the bearer of good deeds. Perhaps that's why we're together, to do good, even when it's hard. Even when it's hard. And to remind each other that each good action can never be wasted, for actions add up. Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Divine justice, divine righteousness, divine hope. Let it whisper to you. Let it inspire you until you become the inspiration yourself. Through the good work you do, let it be your inner compass as you work towards bettering this world as it breaks, this interdependent world that the Spirit of life created for all, not just the rich, powerful, and devious. Believe and know truth and unconditional love will have the final word. Believe. Blessings to you.
Please rise in body or in spirit. 121, we'll build a world. Please join me in saying our chalice, our words as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of its truth, the warmth of this community, nor the fire of our commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with all the world.
We conclude today's services with a prayer by the beloved Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "Oh God, we thank you for the lives of great saints and prophets in the past who have revealed to us that we can stand up to the problems and difficulties and trials of life and not give in. We thank you for our foreparents who've given us something in the midst of darkness, of exploitation and oppression, to keep going. Grant that we will go on with the proper faith and the proper determination of will, so that we will be able to make a creative contribution to this world. And with this I say, Om, Shalom, Salam, Amen. Go in peace and be a blessing for this world. Blessed be.
Please join us briefly for coffee and conversation, and truly, please join us for the conversation about how we will develop and articulate our mission in this world and in this time.
Oh my God, I loved it. I knew you were going to love it. How much? I read it when she sent us the script.
Whoa.
And I texted her and I said, holy cow.
I'll follow her anywhere.
I know.
Jeez. I was actually, I didn't do it, but I was, they're using bits of scripture to recruit ICE.
Oh God, are they? I didn't know that. God is going to strike me. Oh my
I had to
God.
read you this because it's just so.
I had no idea.
These two they're using.
Yeah, yes, yes, yes. Oh God.
Isn't that just?
They're using blessed are the peacemakers?
Isn't that disgusting?
What?
And it also comes with like militaristic